Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where I dive deep into the magical world of movies. And today, I'm super excited to talk to you about Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018. If you're a fan of the wizarding world created by J.K. Rowling, or even if you're new to it, this film is an absolute must-watch. Let me tell you why. It's not just another fantasy flick. It's a thrilling expansion of the Harry Potter universe that takes you on an adventure filled with wonder, incredible visuals, and characters you'll fall in love with. Whether you're rewatching it or seeing it for the first time, this movie has so much to offer, from its stunning production values to its star-studded cast. And the best part? It builds on the magic of the first Fantastic Beasts film while setting up even more excitement for what's to come in the series. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be grabbing your popcorn and hitting play. First off, let's set the stage for why this movie deserves your time. Released in 2018, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald is the second installment in the Fantastic Beasts series, which serves as a prequel spin-off to the beloved Harry Potter films. It's directed by David Yates, the same visionary who helmed the last four Harry Potter movies: Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Yates brings that same sense of epic scale and emotional depth here, making the wizarding world feel alive and immersive. The screenplay is written by none other than J.K. Rowling herself, who not only created this entire universe, but also steps in as a producer. Imagine having the original author crafting the story. It ensures every detail feels authentic and true to the lore. Rowling's involvement means the film is packed with clever nods to the Harry Potter series without feeling forced, and it's all designed to draw you in deeper. Now, speaking of production, this movie was brought to life by an incredible team. The producers include David Heyman, who's been a key figure in the Harry Potter franchise since the beginning, producing all 8 original films. He's joined by Steve Kloves, who adapted most of the Harry Potter books into screenplays, Lionel Wigram, another Harry Potter veteran, and of course, J.K. Rowling. Executive producers include Neil Blair, Danny Cohen, Tim Lewis, and Rick Sennett, with associate producers Josh Robertson and Rob Silva, and co-producer Michael Sharp. The film was a joint production between Heyday Films and Warner Bros. Pictures, distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures worldwide. With a budget of $200 million, they spared no expense in creating a visually spectacular experience, and it paid off at the box office. The movie grossed $654.9 million globally, making it the 10th highest-grossing film of 2018. In the United States and Canada, it earned $159.6 million, while internationally it raked in $495.3 million. It opened with $62.2 million in its first weekend in North America and had a strong global launch of around $253 million. Sure, it was the lowest grossing in the Wizarding World franchise at the time, but that's only because the bar is set so high. It still outperformed many big-budget sequels and proved the enduring appeal of this magical universe. What really makes this film shine is its cast. Oh man, where do I even start? It's an ensemble that's bursting with talent, and each actor brings something unique to the table. Leading the way is Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander, the quirky and endearing magizoologist who's at the heart of the story. Redmayne, an Oscar winner for The Theory of Everything, nails the role with his awkward charm and genuine passion for magical creatures. Then there's Katherine Waterston as Tina Goldstein, bringing strength and intelligence to her character. She's fantastic in every scene. Dan Fogler plays Jacob Kowalski, the no-mage who's like the everyman we can all relate to, adding humor and heart. Alison Sudol is Queenie Goldstein, with her bubbly personality and emotional depth. Ezra Miller portrays Credence Barebone, delivering a performance that's intense and layered. Zoe Kravitz is Leda Lestrange, adding mystery and elegance. This was one of the biggest roles for a person of color in the franchise, which is a step forward in diversity. Callum Turner as Theseus Scamander, Newt's brother, brings a heroic vibe. Claudia Kim plays Nagini, with a graceful and intriguing presence. William Nadelum is Yusuf Kama, commanding the screen with his gravitas. Kevin Guthrie returns as Abernathy, and Jude Law steps in as a young Albus Dumbledore. Talk about perfect casting. Law captures that wise, twinkly-eyed essence we know from the Harry Potter films, but with a youthful energy. And Johnny Depp as Gellert Grindelwald, Rowling personally asked him to take the role, giving him full creative freedom. Depp chose those distinctive mismatched eyes to show the character's duality, and despite some controversy around his casting due to personal allegations, Rowling stood by the decision, emphasizing the complexity of real life. But wait, the cast doesn't stop there. It's massive, with so many talented actors filling out this world. Carmen Ejogo is Serafina Picquery, the authoritative president of Makusa. Wolf Roth plays Spielman, a ministry official. Brontis Jodorowsky is Nicholas Flamel, the ancient alchemist. Fun fact, Jodorowsky was 55 when he played a character who's centuries old. Fiona Glascott portrays a young Minerva McGonagall, connecting back to Hogwarts in a delightful way. Poppy Corby-Touche is Vinda Rosier, Ingvar Eggert Sigurdsson is Grimson, Olafur Dari Olafsson is Skender, Danielle Hughes is Irma Dugard, David Sakurai is Kral, Victoria Yates is Bunty, Newt's assistant. Jessica Williams makes an appearance as Eulalie Lally Hicks, Isora Barbe Brown as Lorena Kama, Derek Riddell as Torquil Travers, Cornell John as Arnold Guzman. There's also Olwen Fouare as Melusine, Hugh Quarshie as Mustafa Kama, and young actors like Isaac Domingos as a 12-year-old Yusuf Kama, Thea Lamb as young Leda Lestrange, 13 to 16 years old, Joshua Shea as young Newt, 13 to 16 years old, Ruby Wolfenden as young Leda, 3 to 6 years old, and Linda Santiago as Credence's aunt. Jamie Campbell-Bower and Toby Regbo reprise their roles as young Grindelwald and young Dumbledore from the Harry Potter films. Other supporting cast includes Simon Wan as Chang, Christopher Burks as a young Auror, David Wilmot as a Portkey Toot, Ed Gaughan as a French policeman, Olivia Popisa as a receptionist, Alfie Maley as a child in a bubble, Maya Bloom as Caro, Simon Meacock as Kraft, Claudius Peters as Nagel, Bart Sorochinsky as Stebbins, Andrew Turner as Macduff, Alfred Rose as a red-haired witch, Keith Chanter as Corvus Lestrange Sr., Jemima Woolnough and Holly Burgess as Gryffindor girls, and Isaac Cortinovis Johnson and Alfie Simmons in smaller roles. Every single one of these performers adds to the richness of the world, making it feel lived in and full of life. You should watch this just to see how seamlessly they all blend together. It's like a who's who of acting talent. Behind the camera, the crew is equally impressive, ensuring every frame is magical. David Yates directs with a calm, focused style. The set was described as running like a monastery, with incredible peace amid the chaos of a big production. The crew had around 600 to 700 permanent members, and on any given day, 200 to 300 were working. Cinematography is handled by Philippe Rousselot, who captures the beauty of the locations with stunning visuals. The film was edited by Mark Day, a Harry Potter regular. Music is composed by James Newton Howard, who returned from the first film. His score is epic, blending familiar themes with new ones that heighten the tension and wonder. The soundtrack was released by Water Tower Music on November 9, 2018, just before the film's premiere. For the visuals, Christian Manns served as the production VFX supervisor, collaborating with companies like DNEG, Framestore, Method Studios, Image Engine, Milk VFX, Rodeo FX, Enzivage, Proof, The Third Floor, Lola Visual Effects, and Industrial Light and Magic for concept design and motion capture. The visual effects company handled the motion capture tech. This film introduces new beasts like the shape-shifting aquatic kelpie and the fast-traveling Chinese Zuwu, all brought to life with cutting-edge effects that make them feel real and enchanting. Production kicked off with principal photography on July 3, 2017, at Warner Brothers Studios, Leavesden in Hertfordshire, England. They built an entire section of Paris on set, including streets, alleys, and a square. The underground amphitheater was inspired by the ancient Roman Pantheon, built between AD 126 to 128. Filming also took place in London, Switzerland, Paris, Kent, Scotland, and even some reshoots in New York City. It wrapped on December 20, 2017. The team used puppets for some creatures on set to help actors interact, and there were more than 1,000 costumes, including over 400 coats. Costume designer Colleen Atwood, a 4-time Oscar winner, created them all with intricate details. Fun behind-the-scenes fact: Eddie Redmayne was so nervous on the first day of the original Fantastic Beasts that they had to stop filming because he sweated through his costume. But by this sequel, he was a pro. Dan Fogler, on the other hand, was great with the magical creatures from the start. Ezra Miller became addicted to tea during his time in the UK. Who knew? And Jude Law didn't go to wand school like most of the cast. His wand was even CGI'd because the original design looked too much like the Elder Wand, which doesn't fit the timeline. Johnny Depp's Grindelwald was first mentioned way back in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, tying everything together. J.K. Rowling was hands-on in every aspect, from writing to producing, and the actors were often in the dark about future plots. Even they didn't know everything. The art department was massive, led by production designer Stuart Craig, with art directors like Hugh Arthur, Martin Foley as supervising art director, Lydia Fry, Kate Grimble, Christian Huband as senior art director, John King, Samuel Leake, Haley Eastonstreet, and Leslie Tompkins. Set decorator Anna Pinnock made every environment pop. In the makeup department, artists like Joe Adams, Nisha Olam, Emmy Beach, Helena Card, Sally Collins, Victoria Cottrell, Sally Crawshaw, Sally Crouch, and Pebbles Day transformed the actors. Special effects involved technicians such as Hiram Bleetman, Will Brett, George Buckleton, Victoria Cadio, Mike Cahill, Leon Collard, Nick Churchill, Sean Clark, Aaron Crow, and Christopher A. Dalton. Stunts were performed by pros like Sina Ali, Lucy Allen, Ramon Alvarez, Mark Archer, Benjamin Ashley, Karanja Agostos, Russell Ballard, Thomas Billings, Adam Bowman, and Alexander Brack. The camera team included Eddie Adcock, Ola O'Warriton, Simon Baker on Steadicam, Andrew Banwell, Tim Battersby, Nicola Beatty, Lawrence Beckwith, Connor Bede, and George Biggerstaff. Animation brought creatures to life with talents like Florina Bad, Sebastian Badea, Joseph Basagni, Michael Brunet, Jonathan Bygrave, Russell Chu, Javier Cimentada, Alessandro Sciucci, Stephen Klee, and Estelle Costado. Sound design was top-notch, with Niva Deary as re-recording mixer and sound designer, Dale Anchor on ADR, Ben Barker as sound designer, Jedediah Barton as audio description narrator, Pete Blacksill as sound trainee, Lily Blazewicz as Foley editor, Peter Burgess as Foley artist, Kristen Catuonio as ADR recordist, and Liam Cotter as first assistant sound. Editorial had Miriam Alvarez, Elise Anderson, Elliot Bick, Matthew Bristow, Mark Burton, Bo Cardall, Samuel Clav, and Martin Corbett. Location management involved Louis Barron, Dylan Beagley, Guy Bishop, Jerome Boussier, Jerome Cant, Musanda Chola, Alary Colton, Tabitha Denny Northover, Alexis Giraudot, and Jody Gregory. Music department featured David Anselmi, Pete Anthony as conductor, Jeff Atmagian as orchestrator, John Barrett, Thomas Bowes as orchestra leader, Peter Boyer, Peter Cobbin as score mixer, Chris Cozens, and Tyler Durham. Script supervision by Marianne Hewitt, Susie Jones, Marie Lacey, Sharon Mansfield, Anna Worley, and Camilla Wren. Transportation with Jimmy Adams, Darren Aitchison, Dean Arlen, Murray Aston, Jamie Barham, Michael Barrow, Jack Buckfield, Maxime Coudray, Mark Dillaway, and Barry Goodwin. Choreography by Wayne McGregor and Alex Reynolds. Color grading by Matt Adams, Peter Doyle, Evan Gradillis, Borna Jafari, and Chris Munns. Casting was led by Fiona Weir, with Aaron Cuthbertson on extras, Elodie D. May in France, and Sarah Wilson as assistant. Costume and wardrobe had Lucille Acevedo-Jones, Phoebe Allies, Richard Bass, Gemma Bates, Jodie Bell, Abigail Best, David Bethel, Lily Bevan, Pauline Bedegare, and Sonia Booth. Art department included Katie Adamson, Lawrence Aldridge, Giles Asbury, Suzanne Austin, Jasmine Backshall, Lee Bailey, Christopher Barnett, Ken Barthelmy, Ivan Bejarano, and more. Visual effects artists like Lisa Abate, Jacqueline Abrahante, Keith Atchison, Oliver Adrangi, Mukund Agicha, Jose Gregorio Aguilar, Lydia Aguilar, Wakil Ahmad, Asanuddin Ahmed, and Kauser Ahmed contributed to the magic. The film runs for 134 minutes, or about 2 hours and 14 minutes, giving you plenty of time to get lost in its world. It was released in formats like 3D, IMAX, 4DX, and ScreenX for that immersive experience. The world premiere was in Paris on November 8, 2018, fitting since much of the action is set there, and it hit theaters in the UK and US on November 16, 2018. Digital download came on February 15, 2019, and home video on Ultra HD Blu-ray, 3D Blu-ray, Blu-ray, and DVD on March 12, 2019. Marketing was huge, with trailers dropping hints of magic, social media buzz from the official Fantastic Beasts accounts, and promotions emphasizing the return to Hogwarts elements. There's more of that iconic school here than in the first film, which is a treat for fans. Reception-wise, it got mixed reviews from critics, with a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 337 reviews and an average of 5.3 out of 10 and 52 out of 100 on Metacritic from 48 critics. Some felt it had too many characters and set up for sequels, but audiences loved it more, giving it a B+ on CinemaScore, 83% positive on PostTrack, and 69% definite recommend. Social media was mixed but passionate. It earned nominations at the 72nd British Academy Film Awards for Best Production Design and Best Special Visual Effects, plus nods from the Casting Society of America, Art Directors Guild, Visual Effects Society, Oklahoma Film Critics Circle, Satellite Awards, Teen Choice Awards, Saturn Awards, and European Film Awards. Even if critics were divided, the fan love shows why it's worth watching. It's a bridge to bigger stories in the series, which was planned as 5 films back in 2016. And let's not forget the fun facts that make this movie even more appealing. Baby Nifflers are in it. Those adorable, treasure-loving creatures from the first film get even cuter. The series was announced as a trilogy in 2014, but expanded to 5 in 2016. Rowling had ideas for the third film while writing this one. The original screenplay was published as a book in 2018 by Arthur A. Levine Books and Little Brown. Modesty Barebone from the first film doesn't appear here, focusing on new dynamics. The next film was originally set for November 20th, 2020, but shifted. Grindelwald's story ties back to the very first Harry Potter book. Rowling revealed Dumbledore's sexuality in 2007, though it's not explicit here. It's subtle and respectful. Last time, I gave you the big picture on why Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018 is such a captivating watch. The epic scale, the stellar cast, the breathtaking visuals, and how it expands this universe we all love in such thrilling ways. But there's so much more to unpack, so many fascinating layers that make this film even more special when you know the behind-the-scenes magic that went into creating it. Stick with me as we go deeper. I'll share every juicy detail about the production, the incredible people who brought it to life, the little-known facts, the technical wizardry, and why all of this adds up to a movie that deserves your full attention. No spoilers here, just pure appreciation for what makes this film sparkle. Let's start with the heart of the production team, because this wasn't just thrown together. It was crafted with the same care and passion that defined the original Harry Potter saga. David Yates directed with his signature thoughtful style, the guy who guided us through some of the most emotional Harry Potter chapters. He kept the set calm and focused, almost like a peaceful retreat amid the storm of a massive blockbuster shoot. J.K. Rowling didn't just hand over characters, she wrote the entire screenplay herself, ensuring every line felt authentic to her vision. She was deeply involved as a producer too, working alongside David Heyman, the producer who's been there since the first Harry Potter film, Steve Kloves, who adapted so many of those beloved books, and Lionel Wigram. Together they formed the core producing team at Heyday Films, in partnership with Warner Brothers Pictures. Executive producers like Neil Blair, Danny Cohen, Tim Lewis, and Rick Sennett kept everything on track, while associate producers Josh Robertson and Rob Silva, plus co-producer Michael Sharp, handled the day-to-day magic. The budget clocked in at a hefty $200 million, and every penny shows on screen, from the sprawling sets to the mind-blowing creature designs. At the box office, it pulled in an impressive $654.9 million worldwide, with $159.6 million coming from the US and Canada alone, and a massive $495.3 million from international markets. It opened huge, with a global debut around $253 million, including a strong $62.2 million in North America over its first weekend. Even though it was the lowest grossing entry in the Wizarding World franchise at the time, that's only because the competition from previous films was insanely high. This one still crushed it compared to most other sequels of that era. It proved fans were hungry for more of this world, set in the 1920s exploring new corners of magic far beyond Hogwarts. Now, the cast. Oh, what a lineup. We've got Eddie Redmayne reprising Newt Scamander with that perfect mix of shyness and brilliance. Katherine Waterston as Tina Goldstein brings fierce determination. Dan Fogler as Jacob Kowalski delivers the relatable, heartfelt humor we all need. Alison Sudol as Queenie is pure charm and emotion. Ezra Miller as Credence adds layers of intensity. Zoe Kravitz as Leta Lestrange brings elegance and depth, a standout in terms of representation. Callum Turner as Theseus Scamander gives us that heroic brother dynamic. Claudia Kim as Nagini is graceful and captivating. William Nadelum as Yusuf Kama commands attention. Kevin Guthrie returns as Abernathy. And then the big ones. Jude Law as a young Albus Dumbledore. He captures that twinkling wisdom with fresh energy. Johnny Depp as Gellert Grindelwald, handpicked by Rowling herself, who gave him freedom to shape the character, right down to those striking mismatched eyes symbolizing his inner conflict. The supporting cast is massive and stacked with talent. Carmen Ahogo as Serafina Picquery, Brontis Jodorowsky as the legendary Nicholas Flamel. Imagine playing a centuries-old alchemist at 55. Fiona Glascott as a young Minerva McGonagall, tying us back to Hogwarts in the sweetest way. Poppy Corby-Tuech as Vinda Rosier, Ingvar Eggert Sigurdsson as Grimson, Olafur Darry Olafsson as Skender the Ringmaster, Danielle Hughes as Irma Dugard, David Sakurai as Kral, Victoria Yates as Bunty, Newt's loyal assistant, Jessica Williams as Lally Hicks from Ilvermorny, Azora Barbe Brown as Lorena Kama, Derek Riddell as Torquil Travers, Wolf Roth as Spielman, Cornell John as Arnold Guzman. And don't forget the younger versions. Joshua Shea as young Newt, Thea Lamb and Ruby Wolfenden as young Leda, Isaac Domingos as young Yusuf, plus Jamie Campbell-Bower and Toby Regbo returning as young Grindelwald and young Dumbledore from the Harry Potter days. Every face adds texture to this vibrant world. Behind the lens, Philippe Rousselot's cinematography makes every location glow with wonder. Mark Day edited with precision, keeping the pace epic yet intimate. James Newton Howard composed the score, returning from the first film, blending sweeping orchestral themes with nods to John Williams' iconic work. The soundtrack dropped on November 9, 2018, via Water Tower Music, featuring tracks like The Thestral Chase that weave in Hedwig's theme, Newt and Leda, Dumbledore, The Kelpie, and many more across 25 pieces totaling over an hour of pure magic. Filming kicked off July 3, 2017 at Warner Bros. Studios Leavesden, the same magical home as the Harry Potter films, where they constructed massive Paris streets, alleys, and even an underground amphitheater inspired by ancient Roman architecture. They shot in London, Switzerland, Paris itself, Kent, Scotland, with some reshoots in New York. Wrapped December 20, 2017. Sets were incredible. Over 1,000 costumes crafted by the Oscar-winning Colleen Atwood, including hundreds of coats with intricate details. Puppets helped actors interact with creatures on set for realism. The VFX army was huge. DNEG, Framestore, Method Studios, Image Engine, Milk VFX, Rodeo FX, Enzivage, Proof, The Third Floor, Lola Visual Effects, Industrial Light and Magic, all under production VFX supervisor Christian Manns. They brought new beasts like the aquatic Kelpie and the speedy Zuwu to life with stunning detail, mixing practical effects and CGI seamlessly. Fun facts to make you love it more. The set ran like a peaceful monastery despite the scale. 600 to 700 crew members total, 200 to 300 on any day. Eddie Redmayne was a nervous wreck on day one of the first film, but owned it here. Dan Fogler clicked instantly with the creatures. Ezra Miller got hooked on British tea. Jude Law's wand was adjusted digitally to fit the timeline. Grindelwald ties back to mentions in the very first Harry Potter book. Rowling was hands-on everywhere. Baby Niffler's return for extra cuteness. The series was first planned as 3 films in 2014, expanded to 5 in 2016. The original screenplay became a published book in 2018. Marketing was massive. Title reveal with an ensemble photo in 2017. Teaser in March 2018, Comic-Con trailer with Depp in costume, character posters, Nagini Spotlight, Hogwarts teases. Premiered in Paris, November 8, 2018, perfect for its setting. Wide release November 16th, digital February 15, 2019, home video March 12th in Ultra HD, 3D Blu-ray, and more. Formats like IMAX, 4DX, ScreenX made it immersive. Reception was mixed critically. 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, 52% on Metacritic. Some said too many threads, but audiences gave it B+ cinema score, 83% positive post-track, 69% definite recommend. Fans loved the visuals, performances, connections. Nominations poured in. BAFTA for production design and visual effects, Art Directors Guild, Visual Effects Society, Satellite Awards, Teen Choice, Saturn, European Film Awards. Even most disappointing nods show passion. People care deeply. You're just joining. Strap in because we're still exploring the magical depths of Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018. I've already shared why this film is a must-see for any Wizarding World fan, from its captivating story expansion to the incredible cast and crew that poured their hearts into it. But there's even more to discover. Let's peel back another layer and talk about the intricate world building, the thematic richness, the cultural impact, and all those tiny details that make rewatching it a joy every time. This isn't just a movie. It's a portal to a bygone era of magic, set against the backdrop of the 1920s, blending history with fantasy in ways that will leave you thinking long after the credits roll. If you haven't seen it yet, trust me, it's the perfect blend of adventure, mystery, and heart that will hook you right in. One of the things that makes this film so engaging is how it weaves in real historical elements with the magical lore. Set primarily in 1927, it takes us from the bustling streets of New York, briefly revisiting the first film's vibes, to the elegant, fog-shrouded avenues of Paris, and even touches on other European locales. J.K. Rowling's screenplay draws inspiration from the interwar period, infusing the story with tensions that mirror real-world events, but through a fantastical lens. It's not preachy, it's subtle, making you reflect on themes like unity, prejudice, and the dangers of division without hitting you over the head. That's why it's so appealing. It entertains while sparking deeper conversations. And for fans of the Harry Potter series, there are those delightful Easter eggs, mentions of familiar spells, artifacts, and family names that connect the dots across decades. Watching it feels like uncovering hidden treasures in a vast tapestry. Let's dive deeper into the production design, because Stuart Craig and his team truly outdid themselves. As the production designer, a role he's held since the first Harry Potter film, Craig created sets that transport you instantly. The Paris sequences feature meticulously recreated 1920s architecture, with cobblestone streets lined with magical shops and cafes that blend Muggle and Wizarding aesthetics seamlessly. The underground circus, for instance, is a feast for the eyes, with vibrant tents, exotic creatures, and an atmosphere that's equal parts whimsical and eerie. They built practical sets at Leavesden Studios, including a massive Parisian square complete with fountains and statues, all aged to perfection. Art directors like Martin Foley, who supervised the overall look, ensured every prop told a story, from antique wands to enchanted newspapers fluttering with moving images. Haley Easton Street handled the graphic design, creating posters, signs, and maps that feel authentically period-appropriate, yet infused with magic. Samuel Leake focused on the creature habitats, making sure Newt's suitcase world felt expanded and alive. The creature design is another highlight. These aren't just CGI afterthoughts. They're integral to the charm. Led by the visual effects teams, new beasts like the Madagot, those cat-like guardians that multiply when attacked, or the Auguri, a phoenix-like bird with a melancholic aura, add wonder without overwhelming the narrative. The Zuwu, inspired by Chinese mythology, is a standout with its massive, lion-like body and ability to cover vast distances in a single bound. Its design involved cultural consultants to ensure respect and accuracy. And let's not forget the returning favorites, the Niffler, now with adorable babies that steal scenes with their mischievous antics, or Pickett the Bowtruckle, who's as loyal and expressive as ever. Framestore and DNEG spent months animating these, using motion capture for realistic movements, and blending them with practical puppets on set so actors like Eddie Redmayne could interact naturally. It's this attention to detail that makes the magic feel tangible. You believe these creatures exist. Costume designer Colleen Atwood deserves a spotlight too. With 4 Oscars under her belt, including one for the first Fantastic Beasts, she crafted over 1,000 outfits, each tailored to character and era. Newt's signature blue coat, weathered from his adventures, reflects his nomadic life. Tina's practical suits scream no-nonsense horror. Queenie's flapper-inspired dresses capture her bubbly spirit. Grindelwald's wardrobe evolves to show his charismatic menace, with sharp lines and dark fabrics. Dumbledore's younger look mixes scholarly robes with a touch of flair, hinting at his future eccentricity. Atwood used authentic 1920s fabrics, dyeing and distressing them for realism, and incorporated magical elements like self-mending seams or hidden pockets for wands. Her team, including assistants like Phoebe Allies and Richard Bass, worked tirelessly to fit everyone perfectly, even for background extras who populate the bustling wizarding crowds. On the technical side, the sound design immerses you completely. Supervised by Glenn Fremantle, the team created layers of audio magic. The whoosh of apparitions, the roar of beasts, the subtle hum of spells. Foley artists like Peter Burgess recorded every footstep on cobblestones, every clink of potion vials. Re-recording mixer Nivediri blended it all with James Newton Howard's score, which features motifs like the haunting Grindelwald theme or the uplifting Newt's melody. The soundtrack album includes extended tracks like Fantastic Beasts Theme, Blood Pact, Spread the Word, Wands into the Earth, Restoring Your Name, The Room We Require, The Zuwu, Captivity, Salamander Eyes, Madagats, Your Story is Our Story, Lita's Flashback, Dumbledore's Theme, Dumbledore's Speech, The Thestral Chase, Newt and Jacob Join Forces, end titles, and bonus tracks like Dumbledore's Theme, Solo Piano, and Fantastic Beasts Theme, Solo Piano. Listening to it alone is a treat, but in the film, it elevates every moment. Filming anecdotes add to the film's allure. The cast bonded over shared experiences. Eddie Redmayne and Callum Turner, playing brothers, drew from their real-life camaraderie to make the dynamic authentic. Katherine Waterston and Alison Sudol, as sisters, spent off time exploring Paris to build their on-screen chemistry. Jude Law prepared by rereading the Harry Potter books and discussing Dumbledore's backstory with Rowling, who shared insights not in the script. Johnny Depp improvised subtle mannerisms, like a slight limp or piercing gaze, to embody Grindelwald's complexity. Ezra Miller learned wand choreography from experts, practicing for hours to make fights feel fluid. And Dan Fogler, the comic relief, kept spirits high with jokes between takes. The crew faced challenges too. Rainy shoots in Scotland required quick adaptations, and the massive Paris set took weeks to build, but it all paid off in authenticity. The film's editing by Mark Day ties it together, balancing multiple storylines without confusion. He worked closely with Yates to pace the action, ensuring quieter character moments shine amid the spectacle. Visual effects post-production involved thousands of shots. Method Studios handled water-based creatures like the Kelpie, while Image Engine focused on destruction sequences. Rodeo FX created magical barriers and illusions, and Milk VFX added environmental details like floating debris or enchanted fog. The third floor pre-visualized complex scenes, helping plan stunt work led by coordinators like Rolly Earlham, who oversaw wire work for flying sequences and duels. Marketing built hype masterfully. Warner Brothers launched a global campaign with interactive websites, letting fans sort into houses or brew potions. Tie-in merchandise included Lego sets, Funko Pops of characters like the Zuwu and Baby Nifflers, wands from Noble Collection, and apparel from Hot Topic. Books like The Archive of Magic offered behind-the-scenes peeks, with concept art and interviews. Video games and mobile apps expanded the universe, and conventions like Comic-Con featured panels with the cast, revealing teasers that had fans buzzing. Upon release, the film sparked discussions worldwide. While critics noted its ambition sometimes led to a crowded narrative, praising the visuals and performances, RogerEbert.com called it visually dazzling, and Variety highlighted Law's Dumbledore. Audiences embraced it for its lore expansion. It influenced pop culture, with memes about the creatures and fan theories about connections to Harry Potter exploding online. The diversity push, with roles like Zoe Kravitz's Leda and Claudia Kim's Nagini, opened doors for more inclusive storytelling in fantasy. We're still deep in the enchanting world of Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018, and there's plenty more magic to uncover before we wrap this up. I've already walked you through the cast's brilliance, the production team's dedication, the stunning visuals, the historical touches, and those heartfelt behind-the-scenes moments that make the film feel so alive. Now let's zoom in on the visual effects wizardry that truly brings this universe to breathtaking life. The creature creations that steal hearts, the awards buzz it generated despite mixed reviews, some extra trivia gems from the cast and crew, and why this movie remains a captivating chapter in the Wizarding World saga. Whether you're a longtime fan or dipping your toes in for the first time, these details will make you appreciate it on a whole new level, and maybe even hit replay to catch everything you missed. The visual effects are nothing short of spectacular, handled by a powerhouse lineup of studios that turned imagination into reality. DNEG, led by VFX supervisor Tom Proctor, tackled some of the most ambitious sequences, including creature animations and environmental chaos. Image Engine focused on enhancing action beats, crafting digital humans for intense rides and chases, and bringing classic creatures to life with rain-soaked realism. Their work on water simulations and dynamic weather added that gritty, immersive feel to outdoor scenes. Framestore delivered key creatures with personality and subtlety, emphasizing that these beasts aren't just monsters. They're living animals with quirks and emotions. Method Studios, Rodeo FX, Milk VFX, and others chipped in on everything from magical barriers to crowd simulations. The third floor handled pre-visualization, mapping out complex stunts and duels so the team could plan every move perfectly. Industrial Light and Magic contributed concept art and motion capture tech, while Lola Visual Effects polished final shots. Christian Mans oversaw it all as production VFX supervisor, ensuring consistency across thousands of shots. The goal? Make the magic feel grounded. Creatures move with weight, fur ripples in the wind, and spells crackle with energy. It's this blend of practical puppets on set and cutting-edge CGI that lets actors react authentically, making the wonder believable. Speaking of creatures, this film introduces a fresh menagerie that expands Newt's world in delightful ways. The Zuwu, a gigantic, multicolored feline inspired by Chinese folklore, zips across landscapes with impossible speed. Its design required cultural sensitivity and intricate fur simulation to capture its wild grace. The Kelpie, a shape-shifting water horse from Scottish legend, appears in thrilling aquatic sequences, with water effects that ripple and splash realistically. Madagats, those multiplying cat guardians, add chaotic fun in narrow alleys. The Auguri, a somber, vulture-like bird whose cry foretells death, brings an eerie, melancholic vibe. Baby Nifflers return, tumbling adorably and causing mischief with their treasure obsession. Pickett the Bowtruckle stays loyal, his tiny expressions conveying volumes. Even familiar ones like the Akami or Demaguise get nods. But the new additions shine brightest. The teams studied real animals for reference, lions for the Zuwu's power, horses for the Kelpie's fluidity, then layered magical traits to make them feel otherworldly, yet natural. Puppets helped on set for eye lines and interactions, while CGI took over for impossible physics. These creatures aren't sidekicks. They drive emotion, humor, and tension, reminding us why Newt's passion for them is so infectious. On the awards front, the film earned recognition for its technical prowess even amid divided critical opinions. It scored BAFTA nominations for Outstanding British Film, though it missed the main categories, Best Production Design and Best Special Visual Effects, a testament to Stuart Craig's sets and the VFX Army's work. The Art Directors Guild honored the period fantasy environments. Visual Effects Society nods came for Outstanding Animated Character, likely for creatures like the Zuwu, and created environments. Satellite Awards praised the visual effects and score. Teen Choice Awards fans voted for Choice Fantasy Movie and actors like Eddie Redmayne. Saturn Awards recognized it in sci-fi/fantasy categories. European Film Awards gave visual effects a shout-out, while Rotten Tomatoes sat at 36% from critics, average 5.3 out of 10 based on hundreds of reviews. Metacritic hovered around 52 out of 100. Some felt the plot was dense with setups for future films, but audiences responded warmer. CinemaScore gave it a B+. Post-Track showed 83% positive, and 69% said they definitely recommend it. Box office held strong with that $654.9 million global haul on a $200 million budget. A solid win, especially internationally, pushing the Fantastic Beasts series past $1 billion combined at the time. Extra trivia from interviews and behind-the-scenes reveals add such charm. Eddie Redmayne shared how nervous he was on the first film's debut day. He sweated through his costume so badly they paused shooting. By this sequel, he was comfortable, but still grilled J.K. Rowling for lore details whenever possible. Dan Fogler, our lovable Jacob, narrated the audiobook Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, Makers, Mysteries, and Magic, giving fans an intimate listen to production stories. The cast discussed secrecy at Comic-Con. Rowling kept plots locked tight, even from them sometimes. Zoe Kravitz talked about Leta's complex backstory, drawing from her own heritage for authenticity. Jude Law prepared by immersing in Dumbledore's essence, consulting Rowling on nuances. Johnny Depp brought his own flair to Grindelwald, choosing those iconic eyes to represent fractured morality. Callum Turner and Eddie bonded as brothers off-screen, making family scenes feel real. Ezra Miller got addicted to tea during UK shoots. The Paris premiere on November 8, 2018 felt poetic with the city's heavy roll. Red carpet energy was electric. A making-of book, Lights, Camera, Magic. The Making of Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald dives into every aspect with photos and insights. Filming locations included Leavesden's massive builds, real Paris streets for authenticity, Swiss Alps for dramatic backdrops, and Scottish spots for misty magic. We're nearing the end of this epic deep dive into Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018, but there's still so much wonderful magic left to share. I've covered the cast's incredible performances, the production's scale, the creature designs, the VFX mastery, the awards nods, and those heartfelt behind-the-scenes stories that make the film feel even more special. Now, let's wrap up with even more fascinating trivia, some standout set visit revelations, the cultural ripples it created, and the ultimate reasons this movie is worth every minute of your time. It's a film that rewards curiosity. The more you know, the deeper the enchantment goes. So settle in as we explore these final layers and why this chapter in the wizarding world continues to captivate fans years later. One of the coolest behind-the-scenes elements is how the film brought classic Harry Potter connections to life in fresh ways. For the first time in the Fantastic Beasts series, actors from the original Harry Potter films reprised their younger versions. Jamie Campbell-Bower as young Gellert Grindelwald and Toby Regbo as young Albus Dumbledore, pulling from their brief appearances in the Deathly Hallows flashbacks. This continuity thrilled longtime fans, bridging the eras seamlessly. Jude Law, stepping into Dumbledore's shoes, described living the ultimate fan dream when he visited the recreated Hogwarts sets, walking those familiar corridors as the character felt surreal and emotional. He dove deep into the books again, chatting with J.K. Rowling about Dumbledore's inner world, his regrets, and his complex bond with Grindelwald. Law brought a youthful charisma that hints at the wise headmaster we know without copying Richard Harris or Michael Gambon exactly. It's a respectful evolution. The secrecy around the plot was legendary. Rowling kept details so locked down that even the cast often learned major twists only when reading the script. Eddie Redmayne mentioned grilling her for lore whenever they met, hungry for more context on Newt's journey. Ezra Miller talked about how the script's layers unfolded gradually, adding depth to Credence's arc. Alison Sudol and Katherine Waterston, as the Goldstein sisters, built their sibling dynamic by exploring Paris together off-set, soaking in the city's vibe to inform their on-screen chemistry. Dan Fogler, ever the heart of the group, kept everyone laughing with his improv and love for the creatures. He was a natural with the puppets and beasts from day one. Callum Turner, playing Newt's brother Theseus, drew from real brotherly banter with Eddie to make their relationship feel authentic and layered. More fun set secrets. The massive Paris set at Leavesden was so detailed that crew members got lost in the recreated streets. They built an entire underground amphitheater inspired by ancient Roman designs, complete with tiered seating and dramatic lighting for intense scenes. Filming in real locations added grit. Rainy days in Scotland tested everyone's patience, but the misty landscapes gave those sequences a haunting beauty. Puppets were key for creature interactions. Actors could see and react to physical stand-ins, which made the CGI integration later feel more natural. For the Zuwu escape and chase, they used a combination of practical rigs, motion capture suits, and digital enhancements to capture its lightning-fast movements and emotional expressiveness. The Madagot's multiplying effect involved clever practical tricks blended with VFX. Animators studied real cats for fluid, eerie duplication. The Kelpie's water transformations required advanced fluid simulations from studios like Method Studios and Rodeo FX, making those aquatic moments ripple with realism. From interviews around the release, the cast shared personal touches. Eddie Redmayne recalled his infamous first-day sweat fest from the original film, joking he was much calmer this time but still felt the pressure of expanding Newt's world. Johnny Depp embraced the creative freedom Rowling gave him, shaping Grindelwald's mannerisms and that striking eye detail to symbolize inner division. Zoe Kravitz spoke about the emotional weight of Leda's backstory, drawing from her own experiences to add nuance. Claudia Kim, as Nagini, prepared by researching the character's tragic path, bringing quiet strength to her role. The Comic-Con 2018 panel was electric. With Depp in full costume for the first time, the crowd went wild, and the cast teased the darker tone without giving anything away. The film's impact extended beyond theaters. It sparked renewed interest in magical creatures, with fans diving into Rowling's companion writings. The published screenplay book became a collector's item, filled with extra details. Merch like the Mina Lima illustrated map of locations, showing Paris hideouts, the French ministry, and more, helped fans visualize the journey. Online communities buzzed with theories about blood pacts, family secrets, and future installments. Despite controversies around casting and plot density, the visual spectacle and emotional beats won over many, proving the Wizarding World's staying power. Ultimately, Fantastic Beasts. The Crimes of Grindelwald is a love letter to imagination. It expands the universe with bold new locations, unforgettable creatures, complex characters facing real moral dilemmas, and ties that make the entire saga richer. The stunning VFX, heartfelt performances, and Rowling's intricate storytelling create an experience that's thrilling, moving, and endlessly rewatchable. If you want fantasy that challenges as much as it enchants, one that feels both epic and intimate, this is the film for you. Grab some friends, dim the lights, and let the magic take over. You might just discover something new with every viewing. We've been on this incredible magical ride through Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018 for quite a while now, unpacking every layer from the powerhouse cast and crew to the breathtaking VFX, creature designs, set secrets, and cultural impact. But there's still a treasure trove of behind-the-scenes gems, cast anecdotes, production quirks, and even a few whispers about what could have been that make this film even more fascinating. Let's wrap up this deep dive with these final enchanting details, things that hardcore fans cherish and that give newcomers even more reasons to dive right in. This movie isn't just a sequel. It's a rich, textured expansion of a world we love, full of heart, wonder, and a touch of darkness that keeps you hooked. One standout element from the set was how collaborative and secretive the process felt. J.K. Rowling visited frequently, sharing insights directly with the actors. Eddie Redmayne often peppered her with questions about Newt's motivations and the broader lore, hungry to get every nuance right. She was there to guide, but she trusted the team to bring her vision to life. The cast has shared in interviews how working with her felt like being part of something bigger. Katherine Waterston described it as inspiring, with Rowling's presence adding authenticity to every scene. Ezra Miller noted the drink of choice on set, lots of tea for the Brits apparently, while Alison Sudol highlighted the fun sisterly bonding with Waterston during location scouts in Paris. More delightful anecdotes. The puppets for the creatures were a game changer. Actors interacted with physical stand-ins, like a life-sized Niffler puppet or Beau Trucklerig, which helped sell the realism when the CGI took over. Eddie Redmayne aced creature handling because of his genuine love for animals. He even joked about channeling his inner zoologist. Dan Fogler, our no-maj hero, narrated the official making-of audiobook Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, Makers, Mysteries, and Magic, where he dives into production secrets with his signature warmth and humor. It's a must-listen for fans wanting that insider feel. The set at Warner Bros. Leavesden ran so smoothly that it was compared to a monastery, peaceful, despite hundreds of crew members buzzing around massive builds. From press tours and interviews, the cast revealed fun quirks. Eddie shared again how his nerves on the first film's day, one led to a full production halt from sweating through his costume. But by Crimes of Grindelwald, he was in the zone. Jude Law talked about the thrill of stepping into Dumbledore, consulting Rowling on the character's sexuality and regrets in a subtle, respectful way. Johnny Depp's Grindelwald choices, those mismatched eyes, the deliberate limp, came from deep character work granted by Rowling's creative freedom. Zoe Kravitz brought personal depth to Leta Lestrange's troubled past, while Claudia Kim researched Nagini's origins to infuse her performance with quiet tragedy. There's intriguing talk of what didn't make the final cut. The theatrical version clocks in at 134 minutes, but the film had twice as much footage originally. Cast members have mentioned deleted or extended scenes, including more with young McGonagall. Fiona Glasscott's cameo got trimmed, extra credence moments at the Circus Arcanus and in Paris, deeper family flashbacks for Leta and Newt. and even an alternate ending that shifted some emotional beats. Dan Fogler revealed in chats that certain Jacob scenes were expanded in early cuts for more humor and heart. While no official extended edition exists, unlike some Harry Potter films, these revelations spark imagination. What if we'd seen more of those threads? It shows how much story was crafted, even if not all fit the final runtime. Looking back at its legacy, the film holds a unique place. It grossed a solid $654.9 million worldwide, $159.6 million domestic, $495.3 million international on that $200 million budget. Not the franchise high, but impressive for a sequel amid high expectations. It opened with $62.2 million domestically, the lowest for the Wizarding World at the time. Yet it outperformed many contemporaries and proved the series' global draw. Awards-wise, it nabbed BAFTA nods for production design and visual effects, plus honors from the Visual Effects Society, Art Directors Guild, and more. Critically mixed, yes, but fan passion endures. It's a bridge film that set up bigger arcs, explored complex themes like loyalty and manipulation, and introduced beasts that became instant favorites. Years later, even as the franchise paused after the third film, Crimes of Grindelwald's visuals, score, and performances still shine in rewatches. It reminds us why the Wizarding World captivates. It's about flawed people and creatures navigating a turbulent time, with magic amplifying the human and wizard experience. The creatures bring joy, the relationships tug at emotions, the world-building immerses you completely. So, if you've made it this far in our chat, you're probably already convinced, or at least curious enough to give it another go. Fantastic Beasts. The Crimes of Grindelwald is a visual and emotional feast, a bold step into uncharted corners of magic, and a testament to the enduring power of J.K. Rowling's imagination brought to life by an all-star team. Whether for the baby Niffler's cuteness, Jude Law's twinkling Dumbledore, the Zuwoo's epic run, or the sheer spectacle, it's a film that rewards your time. We've covered an absolute ton about Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018, from the star-studded cast and their personal stories, the jaw-dropping production design and creature magic, the VFX armies that made every spell and beast feel real, the box office numbers, the awards love, the deleted scenes whispers, and why this film still holds a special place in the Wizarding World family even years later. But before I finally sign off on this marathon review and info session, let's squeeze in a few more irresistible reasons to watch it, some overlooked highlights that fans often point to on rewatch, and a heartfelt wrap-up on why this particular movie deserves your attention in 2026 just as much as it did back in 2018. First, let's talk about the sheer rewatch value. This isn't a one-and-done film. On first viewing, you're swept up in the spectacle. The Paris chase sequences, the underground circus chaos, the emotional family revelations, the way the creatures steal scenes left and right. But on repeat watches, you start noticing the quieter brilliance. The subtle glances between characters that hint at deeper histories. The way the score by James Newton Howard layers familiar Harry Potter motifs with brand new themes to create this beautiful sense of continuity and evolution. The tiny background details in every frame, a moving newspaper headline here, a flickering enchanted sign there, that reward pausing and looking closer. It's the kind of movie where you can mute the sound and still be mesmerized by the visuals, or close your eyes and let the music and sound design paint the picture for you. Another thing fans love pointing out is how the film quietly advances representation in the Wizarding World. Zoe Kravitz as Leta Lestrange brought a layered, powerful black female character into a historically white-dominated franchise moment. Claudia Kim's Nagini added East Asian representation with grace and tragedy. Jessica Williams' brief but memorable appearance as Lally Hicks from Ilvermorny planted seeds for more American Wizarding School stories. These choices, while not the main focus, quietly expanded who gets to be at the center of magic, and that's something that feels even more meaningful looking back now. The pacing debate is real. Some say it's too busy setting up future films, but that density is exactly why it grows on you. Every character arc, every location, every new beast feels like it's planting seeds that pay off emotionally even if the full harvest comes later. Newt's growth from awkward loner to someone willing to fight for what's right, Tina's journey toward trusting her instincts again, Jacob's unwavering loyalty despite being a nomad in a wizarding war, Credence's search for identity, Leta's redemption arc, Dumbledore's careful dance around his past. These threads weave together in ways that feel richer each time. And Grindelwald? The way the film shows charisma mixed with menace makes him one of the most compelling villains in the entire saga. He's not cartoonishly evil, he's persuasive, wounded, and dangerously believable. If you're watching in 2026, there's also something nostalgic and comforting about returning to this 1920s era of magic. In a world that can feel chaotic, there's something grounding about seeing wizards and witches grappling with division, propaganda, and the choice between fear and hope, themes that still resonate deeply. The film never lectures. It shows through character actions and quiet moments what unity looks like, what prejudice costs, and how one person's choices ripple outward. It's fantasy with real emotional weight. And honestly, the creatures alone are worth the price of admission or the streaming click. Baby Nifflers tumbling over each other, Picket's tiny but fierce loyalty, the Zuwu's heartbreaking mix of power and playfulness, the Augury's mournful cry, the Matagots turning a narrow street into pure pandemonium. These designs and performances, yes, the creatures have performances thanks to the animators, bring pure joy. They're not just effects, they're characters with personality, and Newt's love for them is so contagious you can't help but smile. So here's my final pitch. If you want a movie that looks and sounds spectacular, features some of the best ensemble acting in modern fantasy, expands a beloved universe without betraying its heart, delivers laugh-out-loud moments alongside genuine tears, and leaves you excited for more, even when the credits roll, this is it. Fantastic Beasts. The Crimes of Grindelwald may not be everyone's favorite in the series, but it's undeniably one of the most ambitious, visually intoxicating, and emotionally layered entries. It dares to be big, messy, beautiful, and human all at once. We've really gone on a marathon with Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018. I've poured out just about every detail I can think of, the cast chemistry and their personal set stories, the creature puppets and CGI wizardry, the Paris set that felt like stepping into a living postcard, James Newton Howard's soaring score that sneaks Hedwig's theme in just enough to give you chills, the deleted scenes that tease what might have been, the box office journey, the fan passion that outshone some of the critics' scores, and why this film still feels like a bold, beautiful, sometimes polarizing but always ambitious piece of the Wizarding World puzzle even in 2026. But let's end this long chat with a few final heartfelt thoughts on why this movie keeps pulling people back in, and why, if you haven't revisited it lately, or if you've been avoiding it because of the mixed buzz, now might be the perfect moment to give it another chance. One thing that stands out more with time is how personal and intimate many of the character moments feel amid all the epic scale. Newt Scamander isn't your typical blockbuster hero. He's awkward, avoids eye contact, stumbles over words. Yet, when it comes to protecting creatures or standing up for what's right, there's this quiet steel in him that Eddie Redmayne conveys so perfectly. Watching him navigate family expectations with Theseus, rekindle trust with Tina, or share vulnerable glances with Leda, those small human beats cut through the spectacle and make you root for him harder each time. Jacob Kowalski remains the audience's perfect entry point. Warm, funny, a little overwhelmed, but never out of his depth when loyalty is on the line. Queenie's arc adds heartbreaking layers of love versus fear. Credence's search for belonging feels raw and real. Leda's confession scene carries genuine emotional weight. And then there's the quiet tragedy in Dumbledore and Grindelwald's history. The way Jude Law and Johnny Depp play two men who were once everything to each other, now on opposite sides of a growing darkness. It's subtle, it's painful, and it's handled with care. The 1920s setting also ages beautifully. The fashion, the architecture, the Jazz Age energy mixed with wizarding secrecy, it all creates this intoxicating atmosphere. Paris at night, with glowing magical signs and hidden entrances, feels alive in a way few fantasy cities do. The contrast between the glittering wizarding underground and the real-world tensions bubbling under the surface gives the story stakes that feel timeless. If you're watching with fresh eyes in 2026, you might also appreciate how ahead of its time some choices were. The diversity on screen, the exploration of manipulation through charisma rather than just brute force, the way it shows propaganda working on good people. These elements hit differently now, and the creatures, they still delight. the baby nifflers causing adorable havoc, Pickett peeking out of Newt's pocket like a tiny green security blanket, the Zoo-woo leaping across rooftops with heartbreaking grace. They remind us that magic isn't just about power, it's about wonder, empathy, and connection to living things. So my very last nudge, don't let the setup for sequels criticism stop you. Treat this film as its own story, a chapter about choices, loyalty, identity, and the cost of division, wrapped in one of the most visually sumptuous fantasy adventures ever made. Put on the 4K version if you can, crank up the sound, dim the lights, and let it wash over you. You might find yourself smiling at the creatures, tearing up at a quiet moment, and gasping at the sheer beauty of it all over again. One last little extension to this epic, never-ending love letter to Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018. Because honestly, once you start talking about this movie, it's hard to stop. We've gone through every major and minor detail. The cast's chemistry that feels so lived in, the creatures that still make grown adults squeal with delight, the Paris streets that look like they were plucked straight out of a dream, or a very expensive art department's imagination. James Newton Howard's score that sneaks up on you with those perfect emotional swells, the quiet character beats that hit harder on rewatch, and why this film, for all its ambition and occasional sprawl, remains one of the most visually intoxicating entries in the entire Wizarding World catalog. But let's close the book, or at least this ridiculously long script, with a few final, almost meditative thoughts on what makes revisiting it in 2026 feel so rewarding. First, there's something comforting about its sense of place. The 1920s Wizarding World isn't just backdrop. It's alive. You can almost smell the rain on Parisian cobblestones, hear the distant accordion music mixing with spell incantations, feel the chill of the Lestrange family mausoleum, or the warmth of Nicolas Flamel's cluttered alchemical workshop. Every location pulses with personality. The Circus Arcanus feels oppressive and otherworldly at once. The French ministry's grandeur hides bureaucratic absurdity. Newt's expanded suitcase is a cozy sanctuary amid chaos. It's world-building that doesn't just tell you this is magic. It makes you feel it in your bones. Second, the film's heart really lies in its quieter refusals. It refuses to make its heroes flawless. Newt is socially clumsy and stubborn. Tina carries guilt and self-doubt. Jacob is brave but terrified. Queenie's choices are heartbreakingly human. Credence is lost and angry. Leta is weighed down by shame. Even Dumbledore, the wise icon we all know, is shown as a man still haunted by his own past mistakes, treading carefully around a love that once defined him. These aren't super-powered saviors. They're people, and one very special magizoologist, trying their best in a darkening world. That vulnerability is rare in big fantasy blockbusters, and it's what keeps the emotional core beating strong. Third, the creatures are the purest expression of the film's soul. They aren't weapons or plot devices. They're living beings with needs, fears, and joys. The way Newt speaks to them, calms them, fights for them. It's a reminder that empathy isn't weakness, it's power. In a story about rising darkness and division, the simple act of caring for something different becomes quietly revolutionary. Pickett clinging to Newt's collar like a security blanket, the baby nifflers causing joyful mayhem, the Zoo-woo finally trusting enough to let someone ride. Those moments land with surprising tenderness. If you're sitting down to watch it tonight, or this weekend, or whenever life gives you 2 hours and 14 minutes, do yourself a favor. Watch it like it's brand new. Don't compare it to the Harry Potter films or the first Fantastic Beasts or what came after. Just let it be its own sprawling, gorgeous, messy, magical thing. Turn off the lights, maybe grab a hot drink. Ezra Miller would approve of tea, and surrender to the ride. You'll laugh at Jacob's one-liners, gasp at the creature escapes, feel your heart twist at certain confessions, and probably tear up a little when the music swells over those final shots. And when the credits roll and you see that familiar Warner Brothers shield with the extended fanfare, you'll feel it. That spark of wonder that only the Wizarding World can ignite so reliably. So that's it from me on Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. I've given you the encyclopedia, the trivia vault, the emotional deep dive, the visual feast description, and every reason under the sun to press play. If you've stuck with me this far, and Ashwani, if you're still here in Satna on this January morning in 2026, Thank you for the patience. You already know the movie inside out. You know about the baby Nifflers tumbling like furry chaos agents, Pickett's tiny heroic moments, the Zuwu's heartbreaking trust arc, the way Jude Law's Dumbledore carries centuries of unspoken sorrow in a single glance, Johnny Depp's Grindelwald radiating that dangerous, almost seductive conviction, Eddie Redmayne's Newt quietly refusing to let the world turn him cynical, Dan Fogler's Jacob being the warm, beating heart we all need, the Paris rooftops chase that feels like pure cinematic adrenaline, the underground amphitheater glowing with danger and wonder, James Newton Howard's score swelling just when your emotions need it most. So instead of repeating facts, let me leave you with a few closing, almost whisper-like thoughts, the kind you might share with a friend over late-night chai after the movie ends. This film is imperfect. Yes, it's crowded. It sets up more than it resolves. Some threads dangle. Critics were harsh. Box office didn't soar to the heights of the Harry Potter peak. And yet, it dares. It dares to be visually extravagant when so many blockbusters play it safe. It dares to make its villain charismatic and wounded rather than cartoon evil. It dares to show love between two men that shaped history without spelling it out in neon. It dares to center empathy for magical creatures as a radical act in a story about rising fascism. It dares to let its hero be awkward, introverted, and still profoundly heroic. In a way, Crimes of Grindelwald is the most Newt Scamander movie in the series. It doesn't shout, it doesn't pander, it observes, it cares, it gets a little messy, it protects what's precious even when the world wants to destroy it. And somehow, against all odds, that quiet stubbornness makes it endure. If you watch it tonight or this weekend, maybe try this. Pause during the quieter scenes. Look at the background, the floating lanterns in Paris, the alchemical clutter in Flamel's house, the way light catches on a wand tip, the subtle expressions on faces when no one is speaking. Those details are where the real magic hides. And when the credits roll, let the music play out. Listen to that final swell of the Fantastic Beasts theme blending with everything that came before. Feel the little ache of knowing this world is bigger and sadder and more beautiful than any one movie can contain. That's the gift of Crimes of Grindelwald. It doesn't wrap everything up neatly. It leaves you wanting more answers, more creatures, more time with these people. And isn't that exactly what the best stories do? So, go watch it. Or rewatch it. Laugh at Jacob. Worry for Credence. Smile at Pickett. Cheer for the Zuwu. Hold your breath during the blood-packed reveal. Let it move you. I know I said that was the final curtain, but apparently the magic isn't quite ready to fade out yet. So let's linger just a little longer in the enchanting haze of Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018. This film has a way of pulling you back in, doesn't it? Like one of Newt's creatures that refuses to stay in the case once you've opened it. If you've been listening along all this time, and Ashwani, if you're still tuning in from Satna on this crisp January morning in 2026, thank you. Seriously, your patience is legendary. You've got the full picture now. But here's one more gentle nudge before we truly part ways. Think of this movie as a bridge, not just between the first Fantastic Beasts and what came after, but between the cozy, familiar Hogwarts world we grew up with and something wilder, more grown-up, more uncertain. It's set in the late 1920s, right on the edge of history's darkest turns, and it asks questions without easy answers. What do you do when someone you loved becomes someone you fear? How do you fight division when it starts with small lies? When is protecting the vulnerable worth risking everything? The beauty is in how it never shouts those questions. It whispers them through a shy magizoologist who talks to beasts more easily than people, a nomade who just wants to bake and love, a sister torn between heart and duty, a young man desperate for belonging, a woman carrying a lifetime of guilt, and two extraordinary wizards whose bond once promised the world and now threatens to tear it apart. That's why the film lingers. The spectacle is stunning. The Zuwu bounding across Paris rooftops, the Madagats multiplying in a frenzy, the Kelpie rising from the sand like a living myth. But it's the quiet moments that stay with you. Newt's soft thank you to a creature. Jacob's wide-eyed wonder at a magical world he can never fully join. Tina's determined stride through the snow. Lada's final act of courage. Dumbledore's wistful smile when he says, "I was in love with him." These aren't big explosions. They're small, human sparks that light up the darkness. So when you hit play, whether for the first time or the 100th, let yourself sink into it. Don't rush. Pause when the music swells over the thestral chase. Smile at the baby nifflers. Feel the ache when the augury cries. And when it's over, maybe sit for a minute with the credits rolling, letting the final notes of the score wash over you. This movie isn't perfect. It's ambitious, crowded, sometimes frustrating, but it's alive. It's full of heart and wonder and the kind of magic that reminds us why we fell in love with this world in the first place. Since the magic refuses to let go, and we're still floating in that beautiful, lingering afterglow of Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018, let's keep drifting together just a bit longer. One more long, unhurried paragraph that feels like the slow fade out of the end credits when you don't want to leave the theater just yet. Picture this. You're curled up on a quiet January morning in Satna. The world outside still waking up under a soft Madhya Pradesh sky. And on your screen, Newt Scamander is once again stepping carefully through a snow-dusted Paris alley, case in hand, Pickett peeking nervously from his lapel, while the distant hum of the city mixes with the faint, otherworldly calls of creatures only he can truly understand. And in that moment, the film reminds you why it endures beyond any review score or box office tally. It's not about being the biggest or the loudest chapter in the wizarding world. It's about the intimate, almost fragile beauty of someone choosing kindness in a time when cruelty is gaining ground. About a magizoologist who would rather spend his life cataloging the misunderstood than fighting for glory. About a gnome who keeps showing up with nothing but courage and a hopeful heart. About sisters who love each other fiercely even when the world pulls them in opposite directions. About a young man searching for a name and a place to belong. About two brilliant wizards whose shared past is both the greatest light and the deepest shadow hanging over everything. The movie doesn't rush to tie every knot or answer every question because real stories, even magical ones, rarely do. Instead, it leaves you with echoes, with the soft clink of a blood-packed vial, the mournful cry of an augury foretelling sorrow that hasn't arrived yet, the electric tension of a glance between Dumbledore and Grindelwald that carries decades of unspoken regret and what-ifs, the joyful chaos of baby nifflers spilling out like living confetti, the Zuwu finally lowering its massive head in trust after so much fear and captivity. These images and feelings don't shout for attention. They settle quietly inside you, resurfacing weeks or months later when you least expect it. Maybe when you see a stray animal on the street and think of Newt's gentle voice, or when you hear a piece of orchestral music that swells the way Howard's themes do, or when a conversation turns to loyalty and you remember Jacob standing beside his friends even though the law says he shouldn't exist in their world. That's the quiet power of Crimes of Grindelwald. It plants seeds of wonder and empathy that grow slowly, stubbornly, long after the theater lights come up. So if you're reading this and the film has been sitting unwatched on your list, or if it's been years since you last visited, give yourself permission to return without expectations. No need to judge it against perfection. No need to compare it to childhood memories of Hogwarts feasts or epic battles at the Ministry. Just let it be what it is. A sprawling, visually intoxicating, emotionally layered fairy tale for grown-ups who still believe in second chances, in protecting the vulnerable, in the radical act of caring when it's easier not to. Dim the lights, press play, and allow yourself to get lost again in those fog-shrouded Parisian streets, in the warm glow of Flamel's cluttered attic, in the heartbreaking grace of a creature finally understood. And when the screen fades to black, and that familiar Warner Brothers theme plays one last time, maybe linger on the feeling. That small, stubborn spark of magic that says the world, even our non-magical one, can still be a little kinder, a little braver, a little more wondrous if we choose to see it that way. Thank you for letting me stretch this conversation into something almost absurdly long and loving. It's been a joy to share every last drop of enthusiasm with you. Whenever you're ready, whether tomorrow or years from now, if you want to talk more about this film, or the creatures that stole your heart, or anything else that feels magical, I'll be right here waiting with open arms and an endless supply of words. Here we go, one more time, letting the enchantment of Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018 wrap around us like a warm invisibility cloak on this quiet January morning in Satna, where the winter light is filtering through your window and the world feels just a little softer, a little more open to wonder. Imagine stepping back onto that sprawling Warner Brothers Leavesden set once more, where the air smells faintly of sawdust, paint, and the electric hum of creativity. The same massive sound stages that once housed Hogwarts now transformed into 1920s Paris with its winding cobblestone streets, ornate iron balconies dripping with enchanted vines, hidden wizarding cafes where coffee cups float mid-air, and that breathtaking underground amphitheater inspired directly by the ancient Roman Pantheon. Its domed ceiling soaring high above tiered seating carved from faux stone to evoke centuries of forgotten spectacles, all built painstakingly so actors could walk through real environments rather than green screen voids, making every glance, every hurried step, every whispered spell feel grounded in something tangible and timeless. The production team didn't just recreate Paris, they infused it with magic's subtle fingerprints, flickering gas lamps that burn with blue flames, newspapers fluttering on walls with moving headlines about Grindelwald's rise, shop windows displaying self-stirring cauldrons and wands that shift colors when no one's looking. Details so rich that even background extras must have felt transported, wandering those alleys between takes and half believing they might bump into Newt Scamander turning a corner with his battered case swinging at his side. And speaking of that case, the expanded interior sequences were another marvel of practical ingenuity. Layers of habitat dioramas built on massive rotating platforms, real plants and water features for the creatures to interact with, puppeteers hidden just out of frame to give Pickett and the baby Nifflers something physical to play against, ensuring Eddie Redmayne's reactions were always genuine, always rooted in the moment rather than imagined later in post-production. From interviews and set reports that have trickled out over the years, we know the secrecy was intense. Characters were given code names during filming to keep leaks at bay, scripts were locked down tighter than a Gringotts vault, and J.K. Rowling herself was a constant presence, wandering the sets in quiet conversation with David Yates or sitting with actors to unpack emotional beats, her involvement ensuring every line of dialogue carried the weight of the larger lore without ever feeling forced or fan-servicey. Cast members have shared gems like how Callum Turner and Eddie Redmayne leaned into real brotherly dynamics for Theseus and Newt's tense exchanges, practicing arguments off-set until the frustration felt lived in. How Ezra Miller turned to endless cups of British tea during those long UK nights, developing what he called a proper addiction that still makes him smile in retrospectives. How Jude Law deliberately avoided full wand school training because his Dumbledore needed to feel slightly apart, almost otherworldly even among wizards, and how his wand was tweaked digitally in post to avoid timeline clashes with the Elder Wand we know from later years. The VFX teams, DNEG, Framestore, Method Studios, and the rest worked miracles blending practical puppets with digital layers, studying real animals for weeks to capture the Zuvu's fluid power, or the Kelpie's liquid grace, while the sound designers layered in subtle creature breaths, distant spell echoes, and the low rumble of Grindelwald's influence that you feel more than hear. Deleted scenes from the extended cut, that glorious 14-minute bonus on home release, added even more texture. Extra moments of credence navigating the Circus Arcanus with Nagini, deeper glimpses into young McGonagall's Hogwarts days that tied the eras together more explicitly, shirtless Newt in a quiet vulnerability beat that showed his scars both literal and emotional, lingering family flashbacks for Leta that deepened her guilt and redemption, even small croissants and conversation interludes in Paris that gave the characters breathing room amid the rising storm. Eddie Redmayne himself has said he was saddest to lose certain intimate Newt scenes that explored his inner world further, while fans still debate how those trims shifted the pacing but preserved the film's dreamy, almost poetic sprawl. In the end, what lingers most is the film's refusal to be tidy. It embraces the messiness of grief, loyalty, forbidden love, and the slow creep of ideology, all while wrapping it in visuals so lush they feel like paintings come to life, creatures so full of personality they become friends, and a cast so committed that every performance feels like a gift. So if today feels like the right day to revisit, do it slowly. Savor the fog rolling through Parisian streets, the way light catches on a wand's tip during a quiet duel of words, the soft clatter of Niffler paws on wood, the heartbreaking tenderness when a beast finally trusts again. Let it remind you that magic isn't always loud explosions or grand battles. Sometimes it's the stubborn choice to keep caring, to keep seeing wonder even when the world tries to snuff it out. Let's keep savoring this magical aftertaste just a little longer, because Fantastic Beasts The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018 has that rare quality of lingering like the faint scent of potion ingredients after you've closed Newt Scamander's suitcase for the night. A mix of wonder, melancholy, and quiet hope that refuses to dissipate even when the screen goes dark. Picture yourself right now on this gentle January morning in 2026, maybe with a steaming cup of chai in your hands as the winter sun creeps higher over the streets outside, and imagine hitting play one more time, letting the opening notes of James Newton Howard's score wash over you like a soft snowfall, pulling you straight back into that fog-shrouded Paris of 1927, where every corner hides a secret, every shadow might conceal a wand, and every creature carries its own small story of survival and trust. The film never rushes to explain everything away. Instead, it invites you to wander its winding alleys alongside Newt, feeling the same mix of curiosity and caution he does as he navigates a city that is both breathtakingly beautiful and quietly dangerous, where wizarding families like the Lestranges have built lives of privilege atop layers of old secrets and unspoken shame, where the Circus Arcanus pulses with the desperate energy of performers who are more prisoners than artists, where Nicola Flamel's cluttered attic feels like the coziest, most impossibly ancient library you've ever dreamed of stepping into, shelves groaning under centuries of alchemical knowledge, while sunlight filters through dusty windows and golden shafts that dance across floating parchment and bubbling vials. What makes revisiting it so rewarding years later is how the movie rewards patience. Those early scenes of Newt quietly tending to his creatures aren't just setup, they're the emotional foundation, showing us a man who finds peace and purpose in understanding the misunderstood, who speaks to a bowtruckle with the same gentle patience he might offer a frightened child, who risks everything not for power or fame but because he simply cannot stand to see a living thing suffer. That core of empathy runs through every frame, balancing the darker currents of Grindelwald's rising influence, the way his words can twist hope into fear, the way charisma can mask cruelty so convincingly that even the smartest people start to doubt their own instincts. The ensemble cast brings all of this to life with such nuance that you notice new layers each time. The subtle shift in Katherine Waterston's posture when Tina begins to trust again, the way Alison Sudol's Queenie lets her smile falter just a fraction when her heart pulls her in conflicting directions, the quiet intensity in Ezra Miller's eyes as Credence searches for any scrap of belonging, the elegance and sorrow Zoe Kravitz layers into Leda's every movement, the way Callum Turner's Theseus carries the weight of duty like an invisible armor he can't quite remove even around his own brother. And then there's Jude Law's Dumbledore, not yet the twinkling grandfather we met in the Hogwarts halls, but a man still young enough to feel the ache of old choices, wise enough to know the dangers of acting on them, and human enough to let a flicker of longing cross his face when the past brushes too close. Johnny Depp's Grindelwald, meanwhile, is a masterclass in controlled menace, every gesture measured, every word chosen to sound like salvation while hiding something far colder, his mismatched eyes reflecting the fracture inside a man who once dreamed of a better world and now believes the only way to achieve it is through control. The visual effects teams, from DNEG's intricate creature-first simulations to Framestore's seamless blending of practical sets with digital extensions, made sure none of this felt artificial. You believe the Zuwu's muscles ripple under its rainbow coat. You feel the cold spray of the Kelpie's water form. You hear the soft patter of multiplying Matagots echoing off stone walls. The costumes by Colleen Atwood are another quiet triumph. Hundreds of coats, dresses, and robes that tell stories on their own. From Newt's weathered blue overcoat that has seen every continent to Grindelwald's sharp, almost military tailoring that hints at the order he wants to impose. Behind the camera, David Yates kept the set calm and focused, a sanctuary amid the chaos of building entire city blocks, while J.K. Rowling's screenplay and producer role ensured every detail honored the lore she spent decades creating. So, if the pull feels strong today, let yourself fall back into this world without hurry. Watch the way light plays across the Seine. Listen to the distant roar of the Zuwu as it finally finds freedom. Feel the warmth. In Jacob's grin when he sees magic anew, notice the tiny, perfect details that make this film feel handcrafted rather than mass-produced. It's not just entertainment. It's an invitation to remember that wonder and kindness are still revolutionary acts, even in the darkest times. Imagine the film not as a single story, but as a living mosaic of small, luminous moments that keep resurfacing long after you've seen it. The way Eddie Redmayne's Newt pauses mid-sentence when a creature makes a soft noise only he hears, his face softening into that rare, unguarded smile reserved for the misunderstood and the wild. The quiet dignity in Claudia Kim's Nagini as she moves through the circus shadows, her every gesture carrying the weight of a life spent performing survival rather than living it. The electric hush that falls over a room when Jude Law's Dumbledore speaks of choices made in youth, his voice low and measured, yet threaded with a sorrow so deep it feels like it belongs to another lifetime entirely. The sudden burst of color and motion when the Zuwu finally breaks free, its massive form streaking across rooftops in a rainbow blur of speed and grace that somehow conveys both terror and pure, exhilarating joy in a single leap. These aren't just visual flourishes, they're emotional anchors, tiny rebellions against a darkening world where Grindelwald's silver-tongued promises are starting to sound reasonable to too many ears, where fear is being repackaged as protection, where division is dressed up as destiny. The movie never lectures you about any of it. It shows you through the eyes of people and creatures who are trying, often imperfectly, to hold on to decency when everything around them is sliding toward control and spectacle. Think of Dan Fogler's Jacob standing in a wizarding alley with no wand, no magic of his own, yet refusing to back away because friendship isn't something you measure in spells. Or Alison Sudol's Queenie letting her legilimency slip into vulnerability, her bubbly exterior cracking just enough to reveal how deeply love can wound when it collides with fear. Or Zoe Kravitz's Leta carrying the ghost of one terrible childhood decision like a stone in her chest, every step forward costing her something she can never get back. The Paris sequences especially feel like breathing, the Seine reflecting enchanted lights, the narrow streets alive with the murmur of hidden wizarding life, the sudden whoosh of apparition that leaves only a swirl of snow, and the echo of a spell half-cast. David Yates directs with such restraint that the spectacle never drowns the humanity. He lets silences speak, lets glances linger, lets the score by James Newton Howard rise like mist rather than thunder, weaving those familiar Harry Potter threads so subtly you almost miss them until they tug at your heartstrings without warning. And the creatures? Oh, the creatures. They aren't side attractions. They're the soul of the film, each one a reminder that the world is fuller and stranger and more worthy of protection than we usually remember. Pickett's tiny fist gripping Newt's collar like a lifeline, the baby Nifflers tumbling in greedy delight over anything shiny, the Augury's mournful call hanging in the air like a warning we don't yet understand, the Matagots multiplying in chaotic elegance. These beings exist to be seen, to be cared for, to teach us that empathy isn't optional, it's essential. So if today feels like the day to return, do it gently. Let the film unfold at its own unhurried pace. Notice how light catches on a wand's handle during a quiet conversation, how breath fogs in the cold air outside the French ministry, how a creature's eyes meet Newt's and something wordless passes between them. Let it remind you that magic, real or imagined, is often found in the refusal to look away from what's hurting, in the stubborn insistence on kindness when the easier path is indifference. This film may not be the most streamlined or crowd-pleasing chapter in the Wizarding World saga, but it is one of the most honest, messy, ambitious, tender, and achingly human beneath all its wonder. Let's drift into yet another long, soothing paragraph together, allowing the gentle, persistent magic of fantastic beasts. The Crimes of Grindelwald from 2018 to keep wrapping around us like the soft fog rolling through those enchanted Parisian streets on a winter evening. The kind of morning haze that makes everything feel a little more dreamlike as you sit in Satna with the January sun climbing slowly higher on this peaceful 2026 day. Close your eyes for a second and picture the moment Newt opens his case in a quiet corner of the city. The soft click of the locks, the faint rustle of creatures stirring below, the warm golden light spilling upward, as if the suitcase itself is breathing, alive with habitats that stretch impossibly far, each one a miniature world of moss-covered rocks, misty forests, shimmering pools, and hidden burrows where the baby Nifflers tumble over one another in greedy delight, their tiny paws clutching anything that glitters while Pickett clings stubbornly to Newt's collar like a green leaf refusing to fall, his small eyes wide with unwavering loyalty. Those little details, the way the Niffler's fur catches the light as they scamper, the subtle twitch of Pickett's branches when he's nervous, are what make the film feel so intimate amid its grand scale, reminding us that magic isn't always about grand duels or sweeping prophecies. Sometimes it's in the quiet care of one person for creatures the rest of the world dismisses or fears. And then there's the Zuwu, that majestic, multicolored beast whose every bound across the rooftops feels like freedom itself unleashed. Its powerful muscles rippling under iridescent fur, eyes flashing with a mix of wild instinct and newfound trust after so much captivity, carrying Newt through the night in a streak of color and motion that leaves your heart racing and your spirit lifted all at once. The Paris sequences come alive in ways that stay with you. Narrow alleys glowing with floating lanterns that bob like fireflies, hidden doorways that shimmer into existence only when the right spell is whispered. The Seine reflecting the enchanted skyline where wizarding boats glide silently beneath Muggle bridges, the whole city feeling like a living, breathing extension of the wizarding world rather than a mere backdrop. Jude Law's Dumbledore moves through these spaces with a quiet gravitas that hints at everything he will become. His robes flowing just so, his eyes twinkling with that familiar wisdom, yet shadowed by regrets that haven't fully formed yet. Every line he delivers carrying the weight of a man who knows the cost of love turned to rivalry, who understands that the greatest battles are fought not with wands, but with choices made in silence. The film lets these moments breathe. It doesn't hurry past the tenderness, the uncertainty, the small acts of courage, like Jacob's unwavering grin when he sees something impossible and beautiful, or Tina's steady hand reaching out in trust after doubt has nearly won, or Leta's final heartbreaking decision to protect others from the shadow she's carried alone for so long. Even the darker threads, Grindelwald's persuasive whispers spreading like ink in water, the slow poison of division taking root, are handled with restraint, never overwhelming the humanity at the center. So, if the pull feels irresistible today, let yourself sink back into it without any pressure to analyze or judge. Just watch the way light dances across a wand during a whispered conversation. Feel the cold bite of snow on a rooftop chase. Hear the distant, mournful cry of the augury echoing like a promise of things yet to come. Smile at the chaos of multiplying Madagats, turning a quiet street into joyful pandemonium. This movie is a reminder that wonder persists even when the world grows complicated. In the stubborn gentleness of a magizoologist, in the loyalty of friends who have no magic but all the heart in the world, in the simple act of seeing a creature and choosing to understand rather than fear it. Imagine the suitcase opening once more, that familiar click echoing softly as Newt's world expands downward into habitats alive with detail, misty glades where demiguises shimmer in and out of sight, shimmering pools reflecting the forms of kelpies waiting to shift, cozy burrows where baby nifflers scamper and play with unbridled glee, their tiny forms a whirlwind of curiosity and chaos, while Pickett remains ever present on Newt's shoulder, his twiggy body a constant companion offering silent support through every uncertainty. Those creature moments aren't mere spectacle. They're the film's emotional core, showcasing a man whose greatest strength lies in his ability to see beyond labels, to understand the needs of beings the wizarding world often overlooks or fears, turning what could be dangerous encounters into bonds of trust and mutual respect that ripple outward into the larger story. The Zuwu's presence adds that exhilarating layer of wild freedom, its massive, rainbow-hued body moving with impossible grace and power, bounding through the night with Newt aboard, the wind whipping past as Paris unfolds below in a tapestry of glowing lights and shadowed spires, every leap a testament to patience rewarded, to healing after captivity, to the joy that comes from letting something fierce and beautiful run free. The city itself breathes with enchantment, twisting streets where hidden wizarding enclaves reveal themselves through subtle spells, floating markets selling potions in vials that change hue with the weather, the Seine's surface mirroring enchanted barges, and the occasional flash of a thestral's skeletal wings against the moonlit sky, all of it blending Muggle history with wizarding secrecy in a way that feels lived in and authentic rather than contrived. Jude Law's portrayal of a younger Dumbledore weaves through these elements with profound subtlety, his presence a blend of quiet authority and hidden vulnerability, robes draped with the effortless poise of someone carrying centuries of wisdom, yet still navigating the fresh pain of old wounds, His interactions with Newt and others laced with mentorship that hints at the headmaster we know without ever stealing the spotlight from the present. The film allows space for these nuances to breathe. The tentative trust building between Tina and Newt, the heartfelt loyalty Jacob brings to every scene despite his no-match status, the complex layers of regret and resolve in Leda's journey, the raw search for identity driving Credence forward, even as Grindelwald's influence spreads like a subtle poison, his words crafted to appeal to the disillusioned and the fearful without ever descending into caricature. David Yates' direction keeps the balance perfect, letting visual grandeur from the VFX teams, seamless creature animations, fluid spell effects, intricate set extensions, enhance rather than overwhelm the human stories at the heart, while James Newton Howard's score swells and softens at just the right moments, threading familiar motifs with new melodies that evoke both nostalgia and fresh wonder. So if the call to revisit feels strong, surrender to it fully. Let the fog of Paris envelop you. Let the creatures' personalities charm you. Let the characters' small victories and quiet struggles resonate deeply, remembering that this movie's true magic lies in its invitation to care, to question, to protect what's precious in a world that often forgets. Think of the moment Newt stands alone in a snowy Paris courtyard, case open at his feet, the wind carrying faint echoes of distant church bells while he reaches down to coax a hesitant creature from the shadows. The way his voice drops to the gentlest whisper, the kind reserved for frightened children or wounded animals, his hands steady and patient even as the city's tensions swirl around him unseen, a small island of calm in a story that's slowly gathering storm. That tenderness is the film's truest signature, not the grand chases across rooftops or the crackle of powerful spells, but the deliberate choice to meet fear with understanding, to offer kindness when suspicion would be easier, to see the individual behind the label, whether that individual walks on 2 legs or 4. The Zoo embodies that same spirit in its own fierce way, a creature so vast and wild it could destroy everything in its path, yet capable of curling up in trust once someone has proven they mean no harm, its massive head lowering in quiet surrender after Newt's careful persistence, the bond between them a wordless promise that healing is possible even after deep betrayal. Paris itself becomes a living canvas for these themes, its elegant boulevards and hidden courtyards holding layers of history and secrecy, wizarding families carrying old names and older grudges, Muggle life flowing obliviously past enchanted doorways, the whole city a mirror for the larger conflict where beauty and danger coexist so closely that one wrong step could tip the balance forever. The supporting characters add their own quiet poetry, Jacob's wide-eyed delight at every new impossibility, his laughter cutting through tension like sunlight through fog, Tina's determined stride forward even when doubt gnaws at her edges, Queenie's heartbreaking conflict between love and loyalty, her empathy both her greatest gift and her deepest vulnerability, Leda's burdened grace as she carries a childhood mistake like an invisible scar, every movement laced with the knowledge that redemption is never guaranteed but still worth reaching for. Jude Law's Dumbledore glides through it all with a restrained melancholy, not yet the twinkling icon of Hogwarts, but a man still young enough to feel the full sting of past choices, wise enough to know some wounds never fully heal, his every glance toward Grindelwald carrying decades of unspoken sorrow and what might have been. The film refuses to rush past these complexities. It lets silences linger, lets glances hold meaning, lets the score rise in soft waves that pull at your heart without ever forcing the emotion. So, whenever the desire returns, give yourself fully to it. Let the creatures' personalities warm you. Let the characters' small acts of courage steady you. Let the beauty of Paris at twilight remind you that wonder and darkness can share the same streets without one canceling the other. This movie asks only that you look closely, that you care deeply, that you remember empathy as a radical act in any world, magical or not. Picture yourself settling back once more as the film opens its suitcase to reveal those layered, impossible worlds within, habitats stretching far beyond what physics should allow, each one a testament to Newt's patient craftsmanship. Sun-dappled clearings where bowtruckles rustle in the branches like living leaves, misty enclosures where akamis coil and uncoil with shy curiosity, warm burrows where baby nifflers chase glinting coins in endless circles of pure, unthinking delight. their tiny squeaks and tumbling forms a joyful counterpoint to the gathering shadows outside. Newt moves among them with the ease of someone who has learned that true connection requires no grand gestures, only presence and understanding. A soft word here to calm a restless Thestral, a careful adjustment there to make sure a mooncalf's favorite spot catches just the right moonlight. Every interaction a small reminder that the wizarding world is richer for those who choose to see and protect its most vulnerable inhabitants, rather than exploit or ignore them. The Zuwu's arc echoes this same quiet power, a creature of breathtaking scale and speed, once chained and broken in the Circus Arcanus, now freed not by force, but by earned trust, its rainbow coat flashing as it carries Newt through the Paris night in a rush of wind and color, every bound a declaration that healing comes from patience, that even the most wounded can find their way back to wild, unbridled joy when someone refuses to give up on them. The city of Paris wraps around these moments like a living dream, fog curling along the Seine where enchanted barges glide past Muggle bridges without a ripple of disturbance, narrow streets alive with the murmur of hidden wizarding life, courtyards where lanterns float like captured stars and doorways shimmer into existence only when the correct incantation is breathed into the cold air, every corner blending the elegance of 1920s architecture with the subtle pulse of magic that has always existed just beneath the surface. The human stories weave through this backdrop with equal tenderness. Jacob's unwavering grin when confronted with yet another impossible wonder, his no-mage heart refusing to be diminished even when the rules say he shouldn't belong. Tina's steady resolve as she navigates doubt and duty, her strength growing not from power, but from choosing to believe in what's right. Queenie's heartbreaking conflict as love pulls her in directions she never expected, her empathy a double-edged gift that both illuminates and wounds. Leda's quiet burden of guilt carried with such grace that her final choices feel inevitable yet shattering. Credence's raw, aching search for identity and belonging in a world that has never truly claimed him. And threading through it all is Jude Law's Dumbledore, not the twinkling elder we remember from Hogwarts feasts, but a man still carrying the fresh scars of youth, his every glance toward Grindelwald heavy with the knowledge of what was lost, what might have been, what must now be faced, his voice low and measured as he navigates the impossible line between love and necessity. The film never forces these emotions, it lets them unfold in silences, in lingering shots of snow falling on cobblestones, in the soft clatter of a creature settling into sleep, in the way light catches on a wand during a moment of quiet understanding. So if the pull feels strong right now, let yourself return without hurry. Savor the creature's personalities, feel the weight of the character's choices, allow the beauty of Paris at twilight to wrap around your heart, and remember that this movie's deepest magic is its insistence that kindness, empathy, and the refusal to abandon the vulnerable are the truest forms of resistance against any rising darkness. Imagine Newt standing at the edge of a quiet Parisian rooftop once more, the wind carrying the distant chime of bells and the faint salty scent of the Seine below, his coat flapping gently as he watches the Zuwu finally settle after its breathtaking run. That enormous, multicolored creature curling its powerful body into a protective coil around him, its massive head resting close enough for Newt to feel the steady rise and fall of its breathing, a silent acknowledgement that trust, once given, becomes the strongest bond of all. Those quiet, wordless exchanges between human and beast are the film's truest heartbeat. The way Pickett's tiny twig fingers curl tighter around Newt's collar when danger nears, the soft huff of a mooncalf nuzzling for reassurance, the baby Niffler's gleeful chaos as they spill out in a tumble of shiny hoarding joy, every creature treated not as a tool or a spectacle, but as a fellow being with its own fears, desires, and right to exist without explanation or apology. The Paris backdrop deepens this intimacy. Fog-softened streets where lanterns bob like captured moonlight, hidden wizarding cafes with steam rising from floating teacups, narrow bridges arching over the river where muggle boats pass unaware beneath enchanted ones gliding in perfect silence. The whole city a living reminder that magic has always coexisted with the ordinary, tucked into corners and carried in the hearts of those who choose to see it. The human threads weave through this tapestry with equal care. Jacob's laughter ringing out like a beacon when he spots yet another impossible delight, his no-mage wonder never dimmed by the rules that say he shouldn't be there at all. Tina's quiet strength as she steps forward again and again, choosing duty and heart, even when doubt whispers otherwise. Queenie's aching conflict between the pull of love and the fear of losing everything she holds dear, her empathy a light that sometimes burns too brightly. Leda's burdened grace as she carries the weight of one childhood moment that changed everything, her every movement, a testament to the courage it takes to face what you've done and still try to make it right. Jude Law's Dumbledore moves among them all with a restrained sorrow, not the grandfatherly figure of later years, but a man still young enough to feel the full ache of choices that cannot be undone, his eyes holding centuries of wisdom, yet shadowed by the fresh pain of a love that once promised everything and delivered only fracture. Every word he speaks to Newt or anyone else measured as if he's already living the consequences decades ahead. The film never hurries to resolve these layers. It lets them linger in silences filled with falling snow, in glances that carry whole histories, in the soft rustle of a creature settling into sleep, in the way light catches on a wand during a moment of fragile understanding. So, if the call feels irresistible today, surrender to it completely. Let the creature's personalities warm the corners of your heart. Let the character's small, stubborn kindnesses steady your own. Let the beauty of a fog-draped Paris remind you that wonder and pain can share the same space without one canceling the other. And let the story remind you that the deepest magic is often the quiet refusal to stop caring, even when the world makes it hard. Imagine the final rooftop moment stretching out forever. Newt perched on the edge with the Zuu beside him, its enormous rainbow-furred body rising and falling in slow, contented breaths. The city of Paris sprawling below in a glittering mosaic of lights and shadows, fog curling around church spires, and the distant Seine like a living veil. Every distant sound muffled so that only the soft huff of the creature and the faint rustle of Newt's coat in the breeze remain. A pocket of stillness carved out of a world that's starting to accelerate toward conflict. In that suspended quiet, the film reveals its deepest truth: that the most powerful resistance isn't always a wand raised in defiance or a spell shouted into the night. Sometimes it's the simple, stubborn act of staying gentle when everything around you hardens, of choosing to understand rather than judge, of refusing to let fear or convenience strip away your capacity to care. The creatures embody this lesson so perfectly. Pickett's tiny, unwavering grip on Newt's collar through every storm, the baby Niffler's innocent greed that somehow feels like pure, uncomplicated joy, the Augury's mournful cry that warns without condemning, the Madagot's multiplying in chaotic elegance, as if to say, protection can be fierce and playful at once. Each one a reminder that the wizarding world, and our own, is infinitely richer when we make space for what is different, misunderstood, or simply wild. The human characters carry the same quiet defiance. Jacob's laughter that refuses to be silenced, even when the rules say he has no place in this story. Tina's steady steps forward when doubt would be easier. Queenie's heartbreaking honesty when love and fear collide. Leda's courage to face a past mistake and still choose to protect rather than hide. Credence's raw, aching determination to claim an identity the world has tried to deny him. And Jude Law's Dumbledore stands at the center of it all with a restrained, almost painful grace. Not yet the headmaster we know from Hogwarts halls, but a man still carrying the sharp edges of youth, his every word to Newt or anyone else laced with the knowledge that some bonds, once broken, leave fractures that time never fully mends, his quiet presence a bridge between what was hoped for and what must now be faced. The film never demands neat closure. It leaves threads dangling, questions unanswered, emotions unresolved. The blood packs wait, Grindelwald's silver-tongued promises still echoing in the distance, the slow creep of division still spreading. Because real stories, even magical ones, rarely tie themselves up with perfect bows. So if the mood takes you today, let yourself return without any need to judge or compare. Simply watch the way snow settles on cobblestones, listen to the soft clatter of a creature finding its place, feel the warmth in Jacob's grin, notice the flicker of sorrow behind Dumbledore's eyes, and let the beauty of a fog-draped Paris remind you that wonder and sorrow can walk hand in hand without one diminishing the other. Picture the quiet aftermath of the rooftop chase, Newt sitting beside the Zuu as the city begins to stir far below, the creature's massive, multicolored flanks rising and falling in deep, even breaths, its eyes half closed in a rare moment of peace after so much running and fear, while Newt rests one hand lightly on its warm fur, not claiming ownership, but simply sharing the stillness, the wind carrying faint sounds of Paris waking, distant bicycle bells, the low murmur of early market vendors, the soft splash of a boat cutting through the Seine, all of it blending with the subtle rustle of picket shifting on Newt's collar as if to say, "We made it. We're safe for now." Those small, unguarded instants are where the film's heart truly lives, not in the spectacle of spells clashing or beasts roaring, but in the deliberate pauses where characters and creatures are allowed to simply exist, to breathe, to feel the weight of what has happened without immediately rushing to the next crisis. The baby Nifflers tumbling out in a gleeful heap, their shiny, hoarding frenzy a burst of uncomplicated happiness, the Augury's single mournful note hanging in the cold air like a question no one wants to answer yet, the Matagots reforming into their watchful, feline shapes after chaos has passed. Every creature moment reinforces the same gentle truth, that understanding and care are not weaknesses to be exploited, but strengths that endure when louder powers falter. The human stories echo this same quiet resilience. Jacob's laughter that refuses to be extinguished even when the wizarding world tells him he has no right to be there. His joy a stubborn light in the gathering dark. Tina's steady hand reaching out again and again, choosing trust over certainty because love and duty demand it. Queenie's raw honesty when her heart pulls her in directions she never foresaw. Her empathy both her greatest gift and her heaviest burden. Lita's final act of courage born from years of carrying shame in silence. Her choice to protect rather than preserve herself, a heartbreaking reminder that redemption is never easy but always worth the cost. Jude Law's Dumbledore carries the deepest ache of all. A man who once dreamed of a shared future with someone who now stands on the opposite side of history. His every word to Newt measured with the knowledge that some fractures cannot be mended, only borne. His quiet presence a bridge between youthful hope and the hard-won wisdom that will one day define him. The film leaves so much open. The Bloodpack's lingering curse, Grindelwald's influence still spreading like slow poison, the uncertain paths ahead for every character, because it trusts you to feel the weight of those unanswered questions, to carry them with you long after the credits roll, to let them quietly shape how you see the world when you step back into your own. So if today feels like the day to return, do it without any need for analysis or expectation. Let the fog of Paris wrap around you again. Let the creatures' personalities warm the quiet corners of your heart. Let the characters' small, stubborn kindnesses remind you that empathy is never wasted, even when the world seems determined to prove otherwise. This movie may not be flawless, but it is honest, ambitious, tender, visually breathtaking, and deeply human beneath every layer of magic.